Hello, everybody. Merry Christmas. We're up to the third day of 12 Days of the Comic Source presents Bad Idea. Rocky and I, in this episode, are going to be talking about sleigh bells. Very appropriate for the season. But if you're watching us on YouTube and you see the Santa that's in the background behind me, covered in blood, this demonic look on his face, you'll realize this is a very dark tale for Christmas. So it's written by Zeb Wells. David Lafuente does the art, the line work. Ulises Arreola on colors. Simon Bolin on letters. And we didn't talk about them in the first couple of episodes, but there are backups, B-sides, as Bad Idea calls them. They're usually 8-page stories by a variety of characters. We're not going to all of a sudden start talking about the B-sides, but it is interesting. It's a chance for Bad Idea to kind of do like DC does when they do all the anthologies that we talk about all the time, just to give some other writers a chance to work with Bad Idea and for Bad Idea to see if they're creators they want to give a feature-length project to at some point. So the one that's in the back of this is called For a Good Time Call, and it's written by Elliot Rahal. Adam Polina handles the art. Arreola on colors, Dave Sharpe on letters. It's really interesting, but it's definitely not fully formed. Need more to that story. And we've actually never gotten it, so I am kind of curious, and I did want to mention it. But when it comes to the main story, sleigh bells, I mean, most people are going to know Zeb Wells for his work over at Marvel, specifically working on Amazing Spider-Man right now. And I'm not saying his Amazing Spider-Man is all, sunshine and rainbow and puppies, but it's certainly not as dark as this is. So I'm curious, Rocky, taking the idea of Santa Claus and turning him into a serial killer, I guess. A guy goes on a rampage. What did you think? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's all in the title, right? I mean, so it's not like if I'm an astute observer and reader. I mean, it says it's called Sleigh Bells, and sleigh is spelled Slay. So it's strong. We got Superman gun toting on the cover. So I mean, I would probably know just from the very first page that this was going to be a darker take, but maybe a comedic take on Santa Claus. And I had a fun time with it. It was self-contained. It was. You know, this isn't this definitely wasn't Shakespeare by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a lot of fun to read and maybe a little tropey, but it was fun, and it is a one shot, and I mean it actually it's good, it's entertainment fun for the holiday season. So I'm enjoying. I even dressed for it. I got my Santa Claus shirt and my hat or my Santa Claus naughty hat. So hey, I mean, I had a good time with it. I mean, hey, what's not to like about a Santa Claus who is? I felt sorry for him here. I felt more sorry for the reindeer though in this story,
Yeah,
as we'll get to it. But what do you think of it?
yeah. I kind of thought the same thing. It's fun, but it's not something you're going to want to share with kids. And even though it stars a kid named Bobby, and it's Santa Claus, so kudos to Zeb Wells for bringing in a lot of the tropes and the traditions and the myths around Santa Claus. I mean, he's not necessarily a sacred figure when it comes to pop culture. In recent years, we've had um, some different Santa Claus themed horror movies. I think there was one with David Harbour. David Harbour played Santa Claus, and he was like taking revenge on mobsters or something. So just to give you an idea what the story's about, again, starring this kid Bobby, his father wakes him up early on Christmas Eve morning to take him out hunting. He's never been hunting with his father. And there are some humorous moments. It's pretty boring for a kid, kind of like going fishing. His dad keeps scolding him, don't, close your cocoa. The reindeer can smell it. He wants to break off a branch and use it as a sword. No, you're going to spook him. Then he's on his phone. And then, finally when it's time to leave, he's like, yay, he's actually excited, while his father's disappointed that they didn't, not only did they not shoot any deer, they didn't even see any. And so as they're leaving, they see, some antlers over the ridge. They realize there's some reindeers over there. And Bobby even says to his dad, aren't we not supposed to shoot over the ridge because you can't really see what you're shooting for? And he's like, don't worry about it. There's nothing for miles around. So he shoots at it, and it turns out what he's shooting at is Santa's reindeer. They panic because of the shot. They go on a stampede, and they basically impale themselves upon these trees in kind of this deadfall where Bobby and his father were using it as kind of like a hunting blind. And when Santa gets there and realizes what happened, he just loses it. He's like, "Oh my God, the reindeer!" And he's checking his list, and he's like, "Oh, it was this guy, Bobby Hamilton. He was on the nice list, but clearly I got that wrong. He's on the naughty list." And meanwhile, Bobby's dad has told him to, "Hey, don't say anything about this to your mother. Keep it hush hush and what have you." So they go back home, Christmas Eve dinner, pretend like nothing's happened. Meanwhile, Santa's out walking now because he doesn't have reindeer to pull his sleigh, and a police officer happens upon him. And he doesn't believe in Santa because obviously he's an adult, and Santa's kind of saying, "Hey, you can help me. You're a police officer. My reindeer were murdered and what have you." And the police officer is like, "Dude, you need to calm down." And when Santa reaches into his bag, he's like, "I'll give you a candy cane, and then maybe you'll believe me and see that I'm really Santa and what have you." But he's reaching into his bag, and you're reaching into a concealed place in front of a police officer. Of course, he gets pepper sprayed and punched, and that makes Santa mad. So instead of pulling a candy cane out of his bag, he pulls out a bat, bashes the cop in the head, and accidentally kills him. And then he's like, "Oh crap! What did I do?" Um, Meanwhile, it's an awkward dinner at the Hamilton house as Bobby's trying to keep the secret. And then Santa finally gets to where he's going, which he's heading to this woman's house. She's known as the widow. Um, we saw her early on in the story as Bobby and his father were heading out of town to go hunting, and she very much has the Christmas spirit. Like, she adds more and more decorations to the outside of her house every day. This widow Fogarty, and we find out it's because she's been having an affair with Santa for years, right? And that's why Santa was actually headed when his reindeer were killed. Why he was out early, because it's Santa. He's not actually supposed to be out with his reindeer until Christmas Eve night, and he was out there early in the morning because he was going to have his annual roll in the hay, if you will, with this widow Fogarty. So he's totally out of it. He feels like his life is over. He's like, all these decades and centuries of doing my thing and being good, and it was all ruined by this kid and what he did, and they're going to come after me and what have you, and I shouldn't have been here. I should have been home with Mrs. Claus and what have you. And sure enough, the police show up because Santa had used the trooper that he actually accidentally killed. He took his police car and drove it to the widow Fogarty's house. So the SWAT team shows up. They try to take out Santa, and when they do that, the widow jumps in front of Santa to protect him because she actually loves him, right? And then she's killed, and that's it. Santa has totally lost it. Like, that's not very nice. And we get an amazing scene from David Lafuente where he says, "Ho, ho, ho, motherfucker." And that's where the story has just taken a turn. Santa is going to take them all out. And sure enough, he does. He uses his powers. He grabs one guy and whisks him up the chimney. Part way, he grabs one of the officers' machine guns and takes them all out. They're all on the naughty list by now. And then he heads to get his final revenge against Bobby Hamilton. And that's when Bobby and his father have to come clean about what happened out in the woods with their mother. And you can understand Bobby Hamilton's father he's trying to protect his family, and he actually shoots Santa. And as Santa lies there dying, he opens his fist, and he's like, "I made a mistake. This was going to be for you, but it's actually for me." And he opens up his hand, and there's a lump of coal in it. So, yeah, Santa went bad. He acknowledges it, realizes he's the one that deserves a lump of coal, and he dies on the Hamilton's floor. So, yeah, a very dark tale. You can understand why Santa would lose it. It escalates well with under the pen of Zeb Wells. But what really makes this work is the line work from David Lafuente. The colors are done very well, also by Arreola, but the line work, the over the top action, just the fact that he draws as the story goes on, as Santa gets more and more angry and starts unleashing more and more of his martial abilities that maybe didn't even realize that he had. He becomes bigger. He becomes larger. He gets bigger on the page in the panels, to the point where when he finally shows up at the Hamilton's house and Bobby Hamilton goes running to find his father, he bumps into Santa, and Santa's just huge, just taking up almost the whole page. So, yeah, there's not a lot to the story, but again, it ramps up in a really good way, and yeah, it's one and done. It's self-contained, like you said, and very satisfying, very entertaining. So, what do you have to add, Rocky?
Yeah, well, I think that there's a mystery here because there was one scene in the beginning where there's the crash site where the rifle that young Bill Bobby shot or whatever, and he scared the reindeer, and all the reindeer were impaled, and in the remnants of the sleigh, which is pretty much destroyed. I thought there was this mysterious image there was this mysterious uh, I thought this was this unknown force that never does make an appearance later on in the story. Did you catch that? Did,
Yeah, I kind of took that to be kind of this maybe the spirit of vengeance, for lack of a better term.
oh, okay. So like, I thought maybe it was the evil. It said, "Bobby, what? Look what you did, Bobby." And I'm thinking, like, is that the evil Christmas spirit or some sort of?
Yeah, maybe that's what kind of infects Santa when the widow is killed, and really
Yeah,
sends him over the edge. But yeah,
yeah,
it's not really clear. And
yeah,
then you're right too. Also, that the fact that the gun didn't actually shoot the reindeer. It caused the stampede that caused the reindeer to die. But it turns out that Santa, gave that gun to Bobby's father many, many Christmases ago. So that's the other thing. When Santa dies, in a way, it's a little bit of a relief for him, right? Because he's
yeah,
like, wait, I gave you the gun that killed my reindeer. Like he realizes, like he takes it upon himself that it's his own fault. If I hadn't given him that gun, then he wouldn't have given that gun to his son, and then my reindeer would still be
yeah.
alive. Yeah,
Now,
interesting.
is there's politics in this? What is this saying about gun control? Shame on Santa for being creating the weapon and gifting the weapon that would ultimately lead to the loss of his own life and the death of Christmas for everyone. So, don't buy guns. Don't buy guns for anyone for Christmas, people. Is that one of the lessons here? I don't know. Look, I enjoyed this for. I thought it was hilarious that per Santa, he can't even get a piece of Christmas tail without it coming back to haunt him. He's coming. The reason why he was there, he left early. He left the North Pole early because he wanted to end up with his girlfriend there for a secret tryst like he did every year. And unfortunately, that's what brought him in ultimately into the scope of young Bobby, and the gunshot scared the reindeer and all those. I thought uh, I actually was hoping Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, would survive, and that maybe Rudolph was the mysterious reindeer that maybe survived in the sleigh, and that when I was reading it, I thought Rudolph was going to end up crashing through the house at the end at the last minute to save Santa and whisk him off to the North Pole to be saved. But no, this has a much more darker ending, and it's funny how what I thought was cool was that as Santa becomes, he seems the angrier he gets, the more powerful he gets. But I wonder if that also meant he became more vulnerable because I'm surprised that a gunshot could kill Santa Claus. Of course, it ripped him open on the inside. It's a very gory comic when it shows the violence, what happened to the reindeer and Santa. But I would have thought maybe Santa would have some healing powers. But I think because he was without the Christmas spirit, which would empower him, because he was tainted, filled with anger, not filled with love. I think that's the lesson there that you can take. I'm reading so much into this readily violent comic, but I mean, there are themes here if you really want to find them. So, but again, it was,
It's a good point. It's like at the end, when he realizes all the people that he's killed, and the lump of coal is for him. Yeah, it's like he knows he doesn't deserve to survive. So yeah, I totally get that. Um, but at the end of the day, it's the art that makes this work. As I said, the La Fuente art is amazing. I had only known his work from doing superhero books. Obviously, this is not a superhero comic, but I'd love to see him do more in this vein. Doesn't necessarily have to be this dark, um, but this is a dark comedy. I'd love to see Lafuente do some more humor type books. Humor with an edge, because I think his art really suits that style for sure. So,
And I should, as a further compliment to him, at the very beginning of the comic, it shows Santa in all his kind of Christmas spirit glory, but then at the very end of the comic, it shows the darker, beat up Santa at the end. So it's artistically there is, you can tell by the end of the story, Santa's had it pretty rough, and that's artistically rendered even at the very beginning and at the conclusion of the story with this very, even the green background, a nice good looking Santa with in the green background at the beginning, and then sort of a darker, more shaded green at the end when he's more roughed up. And uh, I don't know. I thought it worked real well. And you know what? For a one shot, this is kind of what I like. I wish, frankly, this is what one shots should be. Just a done in one story that you don't have to worry about you know larger themes, but maybe they're there if you want to find them, and you just get a good laugh out of it and a good chuckle. That's what I like about this. I actually, you and I we reviewed some of this stuff with DC. I kind of wish DC would, maybe loosen the bounds of continuity and have more fun with it. Uh, and do something like this, sort of rock the boat, maybe throw Lobo in there. It reminded me a little bit of when Lobo went, there was a Christmas special with Lobo back in the day where Lobo actually takes a hit on Santa Claus and takes out Santa Claus. That was a great story. This reminded me a little bit of that with the same sort of fate for Santa Claus, unfortunately. But but no, it's a fun story. It's a fun story.
yeah, if you're somebody who believes that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, which I'm 100% in that camp,
Absolutely.
this is the kind of Christmas Santa Claus story that you'll enjoy. So, again, not a lot to it, but it's definitely enjoyable. Fantastic art. Kudos to the whole creative team. So, we appreciate everybody joining us as we're counting down toward Christmas with 12 Days of the Comic Source Presents Bad Idea. Link in the show notes. You can go to the Bad Idea website. You can go check out their Kickstarter that's going on right now if you want to get on board with the Bad Idea gang, community, what have you. Check out some of their amazing books. Save Now, which is also written by Matt Kint, like the first story that we reviewed on day one, ENIAC. There's a fantastic story called Save Now. Basically, this chance that this guy has, like his life is a video game. He can save it at certain points and then go back and try to do things differently. That's going on right now. It ends right before Christmas on Christmas Eve, late in the day. So again, link in the show notes. You can go and check that out. And be sure you head over to YouTube if you're listening to the audio only version and subscribe to Rocky's channel. It's Comic Boom, Comic Space Boom, exclamation point. Ring the notification bell. Leave some comments on our latest DC Spotlight. And be sure and subscribe so you don't miss any of those DC Spotlights when they come out once a week. Conversely, if you're checking us out on YouTube, again, be sure you head over to Rocky's channel and subscribe because you're watching this on the Comic Source channel. So be sure and go over and subscribe to Rocky's channel. But also, if you want to listen to our audio-only versions, like maybe you're in the car, on the subway, what have you, just go to wherever you get your podcast, do a search for the Comic Source, and subscribe. So we appreciate the support, as always, everybody. Tomorrow we'll be reviewing a double one-shot, Whalesville and Rocks and Minerals. I think that was the third title that Bad Idea put out. Both of those stories are fantastic. They're definitely for all ages as opposed to these. And both written by Matt Kint with some amazing art by Adam Polina and Tony Millionaire. So be sure you come back and join us tomorrow for that. We appreciate the support as always. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Catch you later.